Ooh, okay, all right, we're back. So I did not need to keep this, and because I need to draw my swamp for the final payment, and also it's just not a super good card to rely on early game. And then these three cards are just way too big, so I toss this one, mulligan it. And I put away the dead revels because it doesn't look like it's going to do anything. No, maybe I swap it out for land. Yeah, so the reason I did that is because I could get value out of if the Blade Juggler dies, that I could get it back. And then I'm likely to draw more lands, so it's okay to toss one. I think you guys already probably, if you're watching this, like you already know basic stuff from mulliganing. I'm sort of assuming there, but sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes people don't know like what hands they should keep or not. And that's an example of just drawing the extra lands. You don't want to be flooded, especially at this point. Okay, so far opponent has not played anything, which is good news for us, and we drew a 3-drop. It's a good 3-drop too. Okay, waiting on the opponent. Okay, solid 4-drop. Syndicate Messenger. Good blocker for him. I think this is an opportunity to do the Sky Tether. And just get in for... Well, I can't really get in for extra damage, even if I use the Sky Tether. You know, using the Sky Tether would block 2 damage coming in every turn, which is something. I chose not to do that. You know, if you're unsure, it's not a bad strategy just to wait and get more information. Like, what if he plays a big 5-drop here? That would be a better use of the Sky Tether and mitigate more damage while I'm buying myself more time. Okay, Knight of Sorrows. And then I play my Spirit of the Spires. I'm considering using Sky Tether just because I have the mana open at this point. Next turn, if I don't play the Sky Tether, I could play the Blade Juggler and Sky Tether anyway if I play my extra planes. Okay, Consign to the Pit. I think I make the decision here just to take the extra damage. No, I block 3 damage because I'm somewhat aware of my life total, and I know I'm going to spawn the 2 tokens that I can attack with, and that activates the Blade Juggler. But I did draw the Archway Angel. Archway. I know I can hit Dead Revels and get those 2 creatures back, but I looked at them and those 2 creatures don't get me ahead. So I'm trying to gain control of the board here by playing the Archway Angel. Now I have board control. He can't swing with any of his creatures, and if he does, then I'm going to block them and have efficient blocks. If he has removal, I'm forcing my opponent to show that they have another source of removal. And another read on this is if they have removal, they probably would have played it. It's not an accurate read because they definitely could know that I know and they play a creature anyway. And like, let's say it's Mortify, they could be waiting for as long as possible. But this is just, I have limited information. I'm trying to make the best play with the information that I have. Here, I'm really trying to get in for damage or take out his Concordia Pegasus. So that's why I elected to do the Sky Tether at that point. Again, I could have used Sky Tether much earlier, but because I've bought myself more time and developed more information on the board, at the small cost of the Syndicate Messenger, I think, swung 2 or 3 times. Yes, that damaged me, but I bought enough time to learn that Sky Tether is actually the best point here so I can develop the board, because I have a 3/4 flyer. This is fine here. I just use the Dead Revels because it's something at this point, and I don't see a better opportunity to play it. That might present itself later, but it's getting close enough that I want to play a 5-drop into more cards as we keep on going. And I notice my opponent, I have board control, and my opponent only has 2 cards. 3 now, but if they had removal, they would have presented it right there. So they probably drew that and played it. I'm still not scared of this board because I have Grasping Thrall in hand, as well as the Spirit. I think if the line of play here is play the Spear of the Spires into Ministrant of Obligation, and then at some point later on, maybe not next turn, but the turn after, I can play the Angelic Exaltation. And that makes a single, Spear of the Spires gives it plus, 5/5, because at that point I would, or +6/6, because I don't have 6 creatures on the field. So I'm sort of thinking 2 or 3 turns ahead. Okay, that Cry was pretty good for him. Got 1, 2, 3 creatures, exiled them. Oh yeah, and at that point, the fact that my opponent had Cry the Canarium into Priest of the Forgotten Gods was a big play, because my opponent has a lot of creatures to work with, and they can force me to sacrifice my cards, and they'd be drawing as well. So it's kind of like a 1 for 2 on my opponent's favor, because they'd be sacrificing 2 cards that aren't really doing anything. Like the Concordia Pegasus do nothing in this position. So I think at this point I've lost the momentum that I had. I'm checking to see other outs. I'm trying to see if I could possibly deck my opponent, but it's 24 cards. It's a long way away. Opponent sacrifices. I'm going to choose to kill off my own Plague Rite. And my opponent can definitely burn me down at this point. Yep. And the Angelic Exaltation does not look as good as it did before. It's too bad I didn't get value out of the Basilica Bellhaunt. At this point, I'm trying to see whatever value I can get, and I'm debating whether it's worth it to wait a turn for the Basilica Bellhaunt in case my opponent draws a card and then saves it. But I don't think that's going to happen, because whatever my opponent draws, it's either going to be a land, which doesn't matter if I force them to discard it, or it's going to be a playable because they have 7 mana up. So chances are my opponent's just going to play it. So trying to get out the Basilica Bellhaunt as soon as possible is the reason I went with that play. Okay, pretty easy just playing the Grasping Thrall. I'm trying to find ways out of this, and it doesn't look like there are many ways to get through this. I think it would have been worth it attacking with the Grasping Thrall. Yeah, because I could have taken out at least one of his creatures. So that's a mistake. Okay, the Cry there, I know that it would only take out the Priest of the Forgotten Gods, but to me that's still worth it. So I end up doing that. I did notice that I can play the Angelic and the Cry at the same time. Or on the same turn. Now, in response to me playing Cry, I believe my opponent should have activated the Priest of the Forgotten Gods. Slight mistake from me there. I should have seen that my opponent could block with a 1/1, and then with the Vindictive Vampire, it drains for 1. So I would lose a life and he would gain a life. And I could have just cried instead. In response, my opponent could have sacrificed 2 creatures, forced me to kill off one of my creatures. That would have been advantageous because his priest is going to die anyway. That's what I would have done in my opponent's position. I was really happy to draw the Mortify there because I could end up killing just anything my opponent plays. If they play something big that I can't deal with, mortify it. Or I can end up killing the Vindictive Vampire that's sort of causing me a headache right now. But I actually feel good at this point. Because I had some good draws. Now here I might have thought about doing the Mortify on the Vindictive Vampire. But again, it's okay because I have board control. So I can afford to let the game play out and see if I can get more value out of my Mortify. If he plays like his own Archway Angel or some big flyer. Now, this might have been hasty. Choosing to mortify the Vindictive Vampire. I ended up doing it, which is, as I'm watching this now, sort of surprising. I actually think it would have been better to wait on that. But I am noticing that with full mana up, my opponent's not casting anything. So to me, that indicates that my opponent does not have anything. Yeah, like discards a land. Probably the other card in my opponent's hand is a land or a card that doesn't do anything. Yep. All right, easy enough. At this point, I think... Here, let me check real quick and give some context around this final... I think this is the final game. So I ranked up, got to gold 3 or whatever. Let me check how many wins I have. So at this point, I'm at 6-1. So one more win, and I would get... Like, that would prize out. I think I end up losing this next game and then winning the final game. Yeah, I don't think that's... I'm not mad at that hand. I don't think that's a bad hand at all. Like 3 Blade Jugglers, 3 mana. I'll take it. Oh yeah, this game I actually end up saving a ton of damage. The Imperious Oligarch keeps swinging, and I block with the 1/3. Okay, I was happy to see those 2 land draws, because now it activates that I can play Blade Juggler on turn 5. This is a huge drop for my opponent. If I had Mortify, that would have been like game ending for me, but I don't, and this Spawn of Mayhem just gets crazy, and I don't have an answer for it. So this entire time, the Imperious Oligarch has not been able to swing. So I feel pretty good about the fact that I've been able to mitigate so much damage up to this point. But having a 4/4 flyer that's dealing 1 damage to me a turn, it's huge. My opponent keeps playing on curve, really efficient cards, really good cards. And the Blade Juggler's not even that great in this position. Yes, it's drawing me a card, but it cost me 5 mana. I have to block the 3/3. I can't keep taking damage because I'm on a clock. So here I actually end up drawing my 4th Blade Juggler, which in almost any other game I'd be happy about, the fact that I got 4 Blade Jugglers and enough mana to play them all. But in this game, because I'm on the back foot so much, I don't actually like this draw for me. I did like Basilica Bellhaunt as a draw, but I would prefer removal over all this. It's a good attack from my opponent because already has me on the back foot. I've already pretty clearly indicated I don't have removal. So he's trying to do as much damage as possible, and I have to draw an out. And if I already had the out, I would have played it by now. So that's a good read from my opponent. And my opponent's been playing on curve with really good cards consistently with that early Spawn of Mayhem drop. I probably could have sacrificed the Resolute Watchdog, but I don't think there's any line of play that would have gotten me ahead at this point. And yeah, it's just over at this point. So I concede that game, we lose, and we go to the final game. I'll keep that. It's 3 mana, Sky Tether, 2 Grasping Thralls, and an Archway Angel. If I can find 2 mana sources, obviously that's good. I can play the Grasping Thrall. And I can play Sky Tether to slow down an aggressive opponent. Happy about that land drop. A little thing I like to do is if I'm going to play a Plains first, I don't need to signal to the opponent what colors I'm playing, so I don't need to play the swamp. So I can just play 2 of those. As I'm saying that, it ends up biting me because here I would have been excited to play the Cry of the Canarium with 2 swamps and a Plains. It's a small thing, hard to predict. But watch what happens here. I think my opponent plays the Orzhov Enforcer, and I'm just excited about this play. This is a 3-for-1. This is it. I don't think it gets much better than this most of the time. At this point, if I can I have a 4-drop. If I draw another mana, I get access to the Grasping Thralls. I can lay down the Basilica. Yeah, it's pretty much game over from here. That 1 Cry of the Canarium on a board of 3 creatures and wiping it that was game ending. I force my opponent to discard a Vindictive Vampire, so a card that's worth something. I don't even mind that my creature got removed. Find my mana, and I can do the Grasping Thrall, and now I have a blocker for his 2/3. Indestructible Vigilance. Let that through. It still ends up with a 1/1 counter. Luckily, I have the Sky Tether into Spear of the Spires, swing. Okay, 2-turn clock for my opponent. My opponent has to draw removal. Yeah, there's nothing my opponent can draw, because even if my opponent drew something, I guess... No, I guess if they had, what's the Angel of Grace, that would be their out. Unless it's that exact card. And there we go. So I'll zip ahead and show what I opened up from the packs. So got 2 packs out of that. And I think I get gems on both of them. Alright, GG. Well, I hope that was informative. I hope that you guys learned something about that. If you enjoyed this content at all, like, drop me a comment and like let me know what was good and what was bad, and I'll listen to it. I'm a small channel, and so I can definitely interact, and I want to see what people are watching and what people like. So hopefully this was informative, and hopefully it was helpful, and good luck out there.